Oh, well fine then, we'll start. I accidentally hit it, but I didn't mean to. Dahoy number 3. Teaching number 5. Page number 8. The mind's conceptual discrimination. The obstruction of the path by the mind and its conceptual discrimination is worse than poisonous snakes or fierce tigers. Why? Because poisonous snakes and fierce tigers can still be avoided, whereas intelligent people make the mind's conceptual discrimination their home, so that there is never a single instant, whether they're walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, that they are not having dealings with it. As time goes on, unknowing and unaware, they become one piece with it. And not because they want to either, but because since beginningless time they have followed this one little road until it becomes set and familiar. Though they may see through it for a moment and wish to detach from it, they still can't. Thus it is said that poisonous snakes and fierce tigers can still be avoided, but the mind's conceptual discrimination truly has no place for you to escape. Number 6. Nothing to attain. Gentlemen of affairs often take the mind, which assumes there's something to attain, to seek Dharma, wherein there is nothing to attain. What do I mean by mind which assumes there's something to attain? It's the intellectually clever one. Ooh, I just thought of something. I was like, I wonder why I can't turn off. I still have my heater on. You know, so sometimes we shouldn't be listening to the mistakes and errors of life. Hey, let's give that a few minutes or seconds. All right. I don't know if it makes much of an improvement for you. Now I can hear myself read. What do I mean by the Dharma, wherein there is nothing to attain? It's the imponderable, the incalculable, where there's no way to apply intelligence or cleverness. Haven't you read of old Sakyamuni at the assembly of the Lotus of the True Dharma? 3 times Shariputra earnestly entreated him to preach, but there was simply no way for him to begin. Afterwards, using all his power, he managed to say that this Dharma is not something that can be understood by thought or discrimination. This was old Sakyamuni taking this matter of its ultimate conclusion, opening the gateway of expedient means as a starting point for the teaching of the nature of reality. Footnote: expedient means for expressing the ineffable and liberating sentient beings. Kuei Shan said, the ultimate ground of reality does not admit a single atom, but in the gateways of myriad practices, not a single method or thing is abandoned. In the old days, Seifeng, the truly awakened Chan master, was so earnest about this matter that he went to Mount Tsaotsu 3 times and climbed Mount Tongshan 9 times. Circumstances were not met for him in those places, however. So later, when he heard of the teaching of Chao, master of the adamantite wisdom scripture, on Tishan, he went to his abode. One day he asked Tishan, in the custom of the school that has come down from high antiquity, what doctrine is used to instruct people? Tishan said, our school has no verbal expression, nor does it have any doctrines to teach people. Later, Seifeng also asked, do I have any part in the business of the vehicle of this ancient school? Tishan picked up his staff and immediately hit him, saying, what are you saying? Under the blow of Seifeng, finally smashed the lacquer bucket of his ignorance. From this one we observe that, in this sect, intelligence and cleverness, thought and judgment are of no use at all. An ancient worthy had a saying, transcendent wisdom is like a great mass of fire. Approach it, and it burns off your face. If you hesitate in thought and speculation, you immediately fall into conceptual discrimination. Pges said, the loss of wealth, of the Dharma, and the destruction of virtue all stem from the mind's conceptual discrimination. Hence we know that the mind's conceptual discrimination not only obstructs the path, but can also make people mistaken and confused, so they do all kinds of things that are no good. Once you have the intent to investigate this path to the end, you must settle your resolve and vow to the end of your days not to retreat or fall back so long as you have not yet reached great rest and great surcease, the great liberation. There's not much to the Buddha Dharma. It's always been hard to find capable people. The concerns of worldly passions are like the links of a chain joining together without a break. Those whose resolve is weak and inferior time and again willingly become involved with them. Unknowing and unaware, they are dragged along by them. Only if the person truly possesses the faculty of wisdom and willpower will he consent to take a step back and reflect. Pges also said, the real nature of ignorance is identical to the nature of enlightenment. The empty body of illusionary transformations is identical to the body of reality. Once you've awakened, there's not a single thing in the body of reality. Original, inherent nature is the naturally real enlightened one. If you think like this, suddenly in the place where thought cannot reach, you will see the body of reality, in which there is not a single thing. This is the place for you to go, or this is the place for you to get out of birth and death. What I said before, that one cannot seek the Dharma, which has nothing to attain, with the attitude that there's something to attain, is just this principle. Gentlemen of affairs make their livings within the confines of thought and judgment, their whole lives. As soon as they hear a man of knowledge speak the Dharma, in which there is nothing to attain, in their hearts there's doubt and confusion, and they fear falling into emptiness. Whenever I see someone talking like this, I immediately ask him, is the one who fears falling into emptiness himself empty or not? 10 out of 10 can't explain. Since you have always taken thought and judgment as your nesting place, as soon as you hear it said that you shouldn't think, immediately you're at a loss and can't find your grip. You are far from realizing that this very lack of anywhere to get a grip is the time for you to let go of your body and your life. Tun Li, my friend in the path, when we met in Pien in 1126, you were of a mature age and already knew of the existence of the great matter. But with your vast erudication, you have entered too deeply into the 9 Confucian classics and the 17 histories. You are too brilliant, and your lines of reasoning are too many, whereas your powers of stable concentration are too few. You are being dragged along by your daily activities as you respond to circumstances. Thus you are unable to make a clean break right where you stand. If correct mindfulness is present at all times, and in the attitude of fear for birth and death doesn't waver, then, over long days and months, what was unfamiliar will naturally become familiar, and what is stale will naturally become fresh. But what is stale? It's the brilliance and cleverness, that which thinks and judges. What is the familiar? It's enlightenment, nirvana, true thusness, the Buddha nature, where there's no thought or discrimination, where figuring and calculating cannot reach, where there's no way for you to use your mental arrangements. Suddenly, the time arrives. You may be on the story of an ancient's entry into the path, or maybe, as you are reading the scriptures, or perhaps during your daily activities as you respond to circumstances, whether your condition is good or not good, or your body and mind are scattered and confused. whether favorable or adverse conditions are present, or whether you have temporarily quieted the mind's conceptual discriminations when you suddenly topple the key link, and there'll be no mistake about it. Number 7. See the moon. Forget the pointing finger. A gentleman reads widely, in many books, basically, in order to augment his innate knowledge. Instead, you have taken to memorizing the words of the ancients, accumulating them in your breast, making this your task, depending on them for something to take hold of in conversation. You are far from knowing the intent of the sages in expounding the teachings. This is what is called counting the treasure of another all day long, without having half a cent of your own. Likewise, in reading the Buddhist scriptures, you must see the moon and forget the fingers. Footnote: in the Surangama Sutra, it is said that the Buddhist teachings are like fingers pointing at the moon, the truth or reality. Once the moon is seen, the finger is of no further use. Chan masters often use this metaphor, and the fact the book from which these notes of Dahoy are translated is entitled Records of Pointing at the Moon. I can't inhale coffee. Why not? Want to get there faster? Yeah, I'll be dead faster. Anyway, sorry about the sidebar. Don't develop an understanding based on the words. An ancient worthy said, the Buddhas expounded all teachings to save all minds. I have no mind at all, so what's the use of all the teachings? If they can be like this when reading the scriptures, only then will people with resolve have some comprehension of the intent of the sages. 8. Stories and sayings. These days in the Chan communities, they use the extraordinary words and marvelous sayings of the ancients to question and answer, considering them situations for discrimination and beguiling students. They are far from getting to the root of their reality. When the Buddhists preached the truth, their sole concern was that people wouldn't understand. Though they had recondite and obscure things to say, they would then bring in other comparisons and similes to make sentient beings wake up and understand. For example, a monk asked Matsu, "What is Buddha?" Matsu said, "Mind itself is Buddha." At this point, the monk was delighted. He was delighted, and I lost my space already. Funny. Mind itself. Okay, the monk was enlightened and entered the path. What discrimination is there here? But if the monk hadn't awakened from this, then this very mind itself is Buddha would have been a situation of discrimination. Footnote: in meditation in which one completes sayings, unquote, Kanhua Chen, the saying or story focused on, likely to be one of the famous public cases of Chan, a cone, is called Yin Yan, a sect of causes and conditions, and hence an accident or incident, a situation. If not used their proper end, such meditation topics themselves can become objects of more discrimination. Guess what? That didn't translate very well in voice, so we're not going to read some of these footnotes, okay? Alright. Got a lot of things I got to do, so I'm just trying to get through this. That's probably why we're not very right now. When people engaged in meditation read the scriptural teachings and the stories of the circumstances in which the ancient worthies entered the path, they should just empty their minds. Don't look for the original marvel or seek enlightenment in sound, name in verbal meanings. If you take this attitude, you're obstructing your own correct knowledge and perception, and you'll never have an entry. Pges said, "It's like hurling a sword at the sky. No talk of whether it reaches or not. Don't be careless." Vimalakirti said that the truth goes beyond eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and intellect. If you want to penetrate this truth, first you must clear out the gates of the six senses, leaving them without the slightest affliction. What does affliction mean? It means to be turned around by form, sound, scent, taste, touch, and phenomenon, and not detaching from them. It's seeking knowledge and looking for understanding in the words and phrases of the scriptural teachings and the ancient worthies. If you could avoid giving rise to a second thought about a scriptural teaching or the stories of the ancient worthies entering the path, and realize directly what they go back to, then there will be nothing in your own realm or in the realms of others that is not according to your will, nothing of which you are not the master. Attain would see a monk enter the door and immediately strike him with his staff. Linchi would see a monk enter the door and immediately shout. Venerable adepts everywhere call this bringing it up face to face, imparting it directly. But I call it first-class trailing mud and dripping water. Even if you can take it up with your whole being at a single shout or blow, already you're not a man of power. In fact, if you have been doused over the head by somebody else with a ladleful of foul water, how much more so, if at a shout or a blow you are looking for marvels or seeking subtle understanding? This is the stupidest of stupid. Ooh, I can look into that. Alright, we're not going to get stuck on a long one, are we? Oh no. No, ma'am. Not today. We do have things to get accomplished. So, here's our short one for tonight. Have a good night.